Hey, listener, just a little heads up for today's episode. It might seem like the episode ends all of a sudden. We had a little bit of issue. We couldn't continue recording. And instead of just scrapping the whole episode, we feel like there was a lot here that you could still get a lot of information from, enjoy our conversation, even laugh a little bit. We didn't get to do our What's Making Us Happy this week. So I'll just start with that. Something that's been making us happy, me and the co-host, I think the co-host would agree with this, is the Knicks. The Knicks have been on an amazing run. We don't know how long they're going to keep it up for. We hope the Knicks win. We are Knicks fans. We have become Knicks fans. Let's put it that way. So, yeah, so that's something that's making us happy. These come from behind wins, and let's just hope they can pull out another win and actually move on to the next round. So that's something that's been making us happy. Yeah, without further ado, please enjoy this episode of Vital Question. And yeah, enjoy. And we'll see you next week with a full episode. Welcome to the 10th episode, double-digit numbers of Vital Question. As always, I'm your host, Che Guerrero, with
La co-host.
La co-host. Can you believe it? Episode 10.
Yeah, I'm proud of us.
I am very proud of us.
Right?
That is 10 weeks in a. Okay, that is
10 episodes.
10 episodes. Say 10 weeks in a row. I was like
Right.
10 episodes.
We're lying to people.
That we be out here giving people information, try to get people informed, try to keep entertained as well, man. Because this stuff is all over the place, but man, is it's interesting to know and figure out about and learn more about and grow with. But man, it's these growing pains.
I mean, right. It's also like the particular time period that we're talking about and everything that's happening now. It's interesting to learn about it, especially, for me coming into it not blind, but just not knowing as much, I feel like, as having been in it for a little longer and in it being like activism work, independent journalism, etc.
Yeah.
So it's been super interesting. It's just that it's, as we talk about all the time, overwhelming, because it's as if they were like, hey, La co-host, here is worst case scenario of all these different issues. Dive in. And that's where I'm at.
Especially as a lawyer, you're always thinking like worst case scenario for everything.
I'm like, it's happening. Worst case scenario, it's happening.
Worst case scenario is always happening.
It's exhausting.
But that's what it is. And it's actually, before we get into it, people already know, if they see the name of the episode, they know what our vital question is for today. But before we get into all that, we were talking about the other day how the internet.
Wait, before you go into the rabbit hole,
what?
Follow us on Substack.
Oh, we on Substack. Bring it up.
Oh my God.
I gotta get the link. Hold on. Let's give her a second. Let's give her a second to get the Substack. Just type in Che Guerrero, right? And the Substack should come up. And we have a Substack now, which is very exciting. If you sign up for our newsletter, we appreciate you doing that. We really have appreciated you checking out our newsletter every week. But we decided to continue that newsletter work over on Substack.
Right. And the idea is to, as the mission of Substack is, right, to build community. So this is our Substack.
We got our Substack up there, all the new stuff, things we've been finding online. There might be some things we might not be able to get to make a video and report on.
Yeah.
But on Substack, we can also post it as just a note, so you can check out things that interest us.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're both running the Substack.
Yeah. So you may be, speaking with Che directly, maybe speaking with me. Just know that the Che Guerrero branding is essentially a two-person team.
It's a two-person team.
But yeah, so this is just to give you a little taste. We have, put some content you can find elsewhere. We've put some thoughts on things that we aren't talking about elsewhere. So it is just a nice space to have everything put together.
Yeah.
So we hope you subscribe and support us if you have the funds for it.
Nothing's behind a paywall.
Yeah, nothing's behind a paywall intentionally, right? We're trying to keep at bare minimum, the information that we're sharing in terms of news and current events, free for sure. But obviously we're both trying to make this a big focus of the work that we're doing. So it would be great if you have the means for it to support. And if you can't, feel free to support in the free version.
Yeah. And, if at any time you're like, hey, you know what? I got a few extra $20 in my pocket. You could also do a one-time donation. You can feel like, hey, I like their work. I like them keep going. We're both, working off of this, living off of this. We do this so we can continue to, bring you stories. We don't have any sponsorship. We don't do anything like that. So
not yet.
You know what I mean? But we rather stay independent this way by having a Substack. We thought it'd be a great way to get people to contribute or to support our work on a monthly basis if they want.
Yeah.
And that way we can use those funds to continue to grow and get more news stories, maybe even do our own, stepping out and being able to talk to people and,
Yeah,
so yeah, just
just
be able to grow this.
exactly. So that's the goal. But yeah, so I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No,
just
no,
wanted to
no.
get that out there.
I'm one thing is I am terrible at self-promotion. I really am. I genuinely am. I meet someone, I hang out with them for a few hours, and I wouldn't even tell them what I do until like later on. They're like, "Oh, wait, you look kind of familiar," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm on TikTok." I'm like, "Oh, that's where." But I'm just terrible at it. So I appreciate you bringing it up. Like, yeah, tell people about the stuff we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's also just important to know because, we've mentioned suppression before and, for whether people believe it or not, it's the numbers don't lie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just the timing of it all is a
Mm-hmm.
little too convenient. So this is, presumably Substack, it claims that it'll never have like that kind of algorithm to suppress anything. And it's meant to be community building. It's meant to be able to share
Yeah.
information and not have to rely on an algorithm or likes to be visible, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
ideally community finds each other. So the hope is that our community finds us. So
Yeah. So combine some Substack. That's
yeah.
great. And going back, that again, it does lead from Substack, but also like just everything we're doing, we were talking about this before, how our generation and even Gen Z are like some of the most educated generations ever.
Mhm.
That I was telling you the other day, I think I used the word that you were like, wait, how do you know? Not how do I know what that means, but how are you using it? When I
Oh.
was like, oh, Sinners is one of the first movies in a long time that's not either a sequel or an IP.
Oh, right.
And you were like, wait,
Like, how are you using that word?
how are you using IP? And
That
I was like,
acronym, yeah.
an intellectual property.
Yeah.
People now can get information so quickly that before, when we used to watch a movie, we wouldn't really know that it was a book before or that it had been a movie like in the 1920s or 30s. We were just like, it seems like a new movie.
Mhm.
So now we're very aware of what like IPs are.
Well, what's funny is and that's my point, right? Because the way you just said it, right? We are very aware of what IPs are.
Yeah.
The way it's being used and the way you're saying it is kind of like a noun in that sense, that it's a thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Versus how I use it
Mm-hmm.
and the legal field, it's intellectual. You said it's intellectual
Intellectual
property,
property.
but it's more so in terms of a type of property that you can own, right? So it's a legal concept of intellectual property. You have ownership in an idea or usually stemmed from an idea, right? Because then you talk about copyright, that's a tangible thing, whatever. So yeah, so like I just thought it was interesting the way you were using IP. And I was like, it's not the way I'm thinking of it. Like it means
Yeah.
we're talking about intellectual property generally,
Yeah.
but we're definitely using it in different ways. So that's I was like, oh, that's so interesting how like, as a phrase that it could develop that way.
Yeah, and the fact that people can look up things so quickly now that they can
Mhm.
learn a lot more of where a piece of art came from than ever before. And some people used to think like, oh, that really ruins the art. I'll be real with you. It makes me enjoy something even more where I'm like, oh, this was inspired by this. Or, I mean, not straight up sequels. Like, I'm tired of like Sonic the Hedgehog 4 does not need to happen. Although 3 was not bad, though. Anyways, this isn't a movie podcast. But if you want to see one, let us know on our Substack. Let's get into the vital question of the week because this was something that smacked me
Mhm.
like straight up over the head as someone who has a lot of family members who has maneuvered the immigration system. Personally, people know I've maneuvered through the immigration system.
Mhm.
And I had no idea how separate the immigration courts are from the judiciary. And the co-host is going to help break this down beautifully because even I'm like, wait, was I going through a kangaroo court that was essentially made up?
I mean, not necessarily made up, but like they kind of just change things at a whim depending on who's in office
Yeah.
and what administration's in play. Kind of like that kind of is the gist of
It's
it.
the gist of it. I mean, okay, that's it. That's the episode. See you guys later. Bye. No. So the question for this week is how fair is the immigration court system?
And it's not.
It's not.
Surprise, surprise,
Okay,
right?
again,
But
end of the episode. Peace out later. Thank you so much. So remember to subscribe to Substack.
but yeah, no, I mean, for me, we, as you mentioned, right, it came up during research for a news story that we recently put out about a flyer that's being posted nationwide
Mm-hmm.
at different immigration courts. It's being emailed to some people as attachments. It's being included in, actual tangible mail. And it's basically encouraging people to self-deport.
Yeah.
People that are currently in the immigration system with active cases that have been doing everything the legal way and the right way. Some people even that have had approved, what's it called? Approved asylum cases.
Yeah.
Even that's been a thing. So yeah. So because as we were doing research for that, we came across some information. And yeah, it turns out. So this is just a quick like
Yeah, I'll bring it up
preview.
for you right here.
Yeah, a quick preview of the research that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And this article specifically was about Kansas City, but it's mentions that it's nationwide. And yeah, so that's kind of where the research came about. But what we came to find out is that the immigration court system isn't even part of the judiciary branch of government.
Right.
It's an entire separate from that entirely. And I think for me, once I saw that, I already kind of figured that there was
Hmm.
issues in the court system in the way that there's issues in a lot of our court systems,
Right.
unfortunately. Part of the reason why I'm not a litigator.
Hmm.
But yeah, but digging deeper into it, what I kept thinking is the fact that a lot of people criticize migrants who are in the country for years, sometimes decades,
Hmm.
and say you still don't have status. So what were you doing? See, this is you taking advantage of the system. And people act like they're just sitting there doing nothing to kind of help their status
Yeah.
or become quote unquote legal or whatever,
It
right?
is it
Like,
is the most insulting thing ever
yeah.
when, like, somebody will go up to, like, a migrant or whatever and be like, "Oh, why haven't you fixed your status yet?" Or I've heard that question before, like, "Why haven't you done it yet?" And the way they say it to people, it's in a very condescending way.
Hmm.
It is in a way where it's like, "You must be dumb,"
Right. Because it's so
right?
easy.
Like, I know how to, like, because they know how to get a driver's license, right?
Right.
They're like, "Well, you take your birth certificate, and then you go down and you get a driver's license."
Hmm.
Right? That's how you do it. Why can't you do your citizenship the same way? And you're like, listen, buddy, you were pushed out of your mama's vagina in the United States. That's really all you ever had to do. And I'm sorry for the graphic imagery, okay? But that's some people are so people who are just born here, especially certain ones
Hmm.
who are born here, like, their idea of becoming a US citizen, it only goes as far as being pushed out, dude.
Right.
You didn't do anything to earn it. You
Well,
have
we'll see
no
how
idea.
birthright citizenship plays out.
Let's
So,
today in the Supreme Court, that's another thing. Birthright citizenship
well, that's a whole
is
rabbit hole.
it's a whole rabbit hole. And today's final question is, how
No.
fair is the immigration court system?
Yeah. So, but look into birthright citizenship.
Right.
Um,
But that's what it
but
is.
yeah,
It's a long
yeah.
process.
Like, let's make it clear off the bat. It's not that you fill out an "I want to be a U.S. citizen" form. Here's my
Wait,
name.
there is one?
Here, here's my name. Here's my thingy. Whatever. Here's my birth certificate. Got some paperwork. Here you go, clerk. Stamp. I'm a citizen.
Beepity
Yay.
boppity boop.
Correct. If it were that easy, everyone would be doing it, and everyone would already be a citizen. And ideally, that's kind of what people are trying to advocate for. In the same way that we're seeing how easy it is to get a driver's license, to get all these different things, assuming again we're all on board. If you have a criminal record and it's violent and whatever, no one's trying to have people who have like actually killed and done terrible things to people
Mhm.
out here. Of course not.
No.
But if you're just a regular old person that just trying to like, I don't know, better your life or escape persecution or escape, actual uh terror and terrible things that are happening back in your home country, right? Like there should be no issue with that. But that's not how it's not as seamless as people think it is.
And I think we're starting to see a lot more of the facade, especially like behind the immigration system after what happened with the Afrikaners.
Hmm.
If you hadn't seen this week, the Trump administration brought into the United States, as of right now, 49 Afrikaners who arrived at Dulles Airport, and the U.S. government was open arms, was way to go. Thank you for coming here. They are getting fast tracked to work permits and all that stuff, and they're getting cell phones and they're getting all these amenities, and it just goes to show you how much the U.S. government can fast track things for people,
Right.
can have people come here and have the status quickly if the US government wanted them to.
Right.
We have over 11 million undocumented people in this country because at the end of the day, and you can try and like debate me on this, but it's the fact that the United States doesn't want 11 million people of color to become citizens.
Hmm.
They're trying to keep this country white.
I mean, and that's the hard part on their side to argue against, right? Like, how do you claim that that's not the case when you literally just slapped everyone in the face with bringing in all of these white people from South Africa who are claiming oppression, but really they just don't want to be under a black government,
They don't want to be under a black president. That's
and
all they're here for.
and that's it. Like
How is
d-
I can't believe Trump understands that oppression more
and they're
than
calling them refugees. And I know that there's been stories of some of the people in the mix that things have happened to them, and if they have, then that's of course that's terrible. But if it happened to you, if one thing bad thing happened to one person, that does not equate to an oppressive government. Because if that were the case, then we don't even want to start talking about our own government.
I
Like,
mean,
let's be real. Then we are all default refugees. Let's all be out,
let's
right?
all go.
Hey, U.S. government, why aren't you giving me? I was born here. Why don't you give me some stuff? Like, I don't understand. Give me some stuff. Like,
And we're saying we really want to help out refugees, but refugees
genuinely,
who
but actual
genuinely,
refugees, people who literally cannot be in their country,
yeah,
who are fearing persecution, who are like getting bombs thrown at them left and right, who just, I don't have actual cartels
yeah.
who may or may not be funded by this government, but
And there's also
who's
people
like,
who are also, again, doesn't, there's sometimes people who just because of their sexual orientation can't live in the
mhm,
country because they'll be persecuted against. That's
right,
genuine reason to, you're part of a protective group.
right,
But these Afrikaners are using things that have happened to them to try to exploit the fact that they, as white people, are being subjugated or that the government is purposely trying to hurt them and take their land away.
yeah,
It is just such bull.
yeah.
And at the end of the day, these are just white supremacists who Elon Musk and the Trump administration want to support and help.
And especially when you again are sending people back to their quote unquote home countries who literally have documented evidence that they will get killed when they get sent back.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the people, these tend to be asylum seekers.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually what it is to be a real refugee, right? To be a real asylum seeker. It's not because, oh, I'm not a fan of my government and their policies. It's no, I might get shot in the face if I go outside because of who I am, religious beliefs, political beliefs, whatever. Like these are the types
Yeah.
of things, right?
Yeah.
Granted, this country is kind of maybe falling towards,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're teetering if we go
Yeah.
off of that metric because that's actually what is
Mm-hmm.
some of the
Wow.
pillars you have to hit. But
Wow.
yeah,
The way things are going.
I
It
mean,
is.
again, assuming freedom of speech is presumably is still a real thing. We'll see if anything happens to us. But
I wonder how the immigration courts work in Canada because are they also under the
well,
prime minister?
apparently Canada is opening arms to. I mean, I don't know if that's true.
Let's listen. We didn't even get into this, but in the UK, this week has been like they're also made a 180 on immigrants again. It's supposed to be the left party, and now they're also turning right wing on. So yeah, it's these immigration courts around the world are just becoming more and more anti-immigrant.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, and we weren't gonna really get into this, and this is kind of why this is my theory. And you could be like, hey, don't be throwing out these theories or whatever, right? But the thing is that the Western world, I'm talking about US and Britain, right? They destabilized so many countries. I know I've said this 1,000 times, right? These people that are coming to these countries are from the countries that the US destabilized.
Mhm.
So I kind of understand now why the immigration court doesn't work the same as like, the judiciary, because technically I'd be trying to call the US government a criminal, or you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
in a way, having these courts fall outside of a jurisdiction, it kind of also helps the United States wash its atrocities.
Right, because they're able to control that judicial system, that specific court system that'll be reviewing these
And what
cases.
kind of claims could be brought against
The U.S. government.
what kind of claims could be brought forth in helping your case?
Mhm.
Because remember, the US government is a lot more likely to give you asylum if you come from a country that it deems communism.
Mhm.
That's why people from Cuba or
Mhm.
certain like, but if you come from a country, for example, I'll use my home country of the Dominican Republic. If you came to the United States seeking asylum from Trujillo,
Mhm.
they would be like, Trujillo's great because Trujillo was a guy that they helped install.
Right.
So that's why you coming through the immigration system, you go, hey, there's a dictator. They could be like, we're not going to review that. No, you're saying no. We're just going to say no because we don't think Trujillo's a dictator.
Right.
So the U.S. immigration court does help the U.S. government cover its ass when it comes to atrocities.
Which makes sense that it is governed by the DOJ, everyone.
And that's
Surprise.
where we're getting into that. We did not know that.
Yeah. So first, as we mentioned, it's not part of the judicial branch of government, even though it's a whole court system. So the more than like 700 immigration judges and 70 immigration courts all fall under the authority of the U.S. Attorney General and the Department of Justice, DOJ, through its quote Executive Office of Immigration Review.
Yeah, let's bring that
So
up.
I didn't even know that this was a thing, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So just skimming up, right? So this
Mm-hmm.
is DOJ website, Department of Justice. Here's a little seal on the top. And the blurb on the bottom gives a good summary of what it is. So I'll just read it off for those who are listening audio only. The Executive Office for Immigration Review, EOIR, is an agency within the Department of Justice. Under delegated authority from the Attorney General, immigration judges and the Board of Immigration Appeals interpret, and adjudicate immigration cases according to United States immigration laws. EOIR's immigration judges conduct administrative court proceedings in immigration courts located throughout the nation. So I'll stop there. First and foremost, these are not criminal cases that we're talking about, right? These are administrative civil cases, right? So just making it clear that technically this immigration court system, it's not a criminal court
No.
system. And first and foremost, it's not. So we'll dive deeper into that. I just want to get through the summary.
Let's bring it in. Let's bring it in. Like a hose is keeping us on track. Let's bring it in.
But I just want to flag that in their own words, it's flagging that it's not a criminal court system. So just stopping there, right? So it continues that they determine whether foreign-born individuals whom the Department of Homeland Security charges with violating immigration law should be ordered removed from the United States or should be granted relief from removal and be permitted to remain in this country. The Board of Immigration Appeals primarily reviews appeals of decisions by immigration judges. EOR's Office of the Chief Administrative Hearing Officer adjudicates immigration-related employment cases. Okay, whatever. Now it goes into other details. But yeah, so this is the agency in the DOJ that handles the immigration court system. And the Attorney General, as we know, Pam Bundy, or Bondi, I always call her Bundy, like from
Love America.
It just feels like she fits in that family, you know?
Yeah. She does have like that, like she's that dumb daughter.
But you think you're actually doing something, right?
Next thing you're doing something.
But yeah, so that was just kind of laying out the structure of it, that it is a court system that sits under the DOJ, and technically the Attorney General can intercede, right? And if they decide that whoever the Attorney General is at the time, but in our case, unfortunately, it's Pam. If Pam decides that she is against a particular ruling in a court case, she can technically go in and potentially overrule it or potentially decide otherwise.
Yeah.
So we'll dig deeper into that later on, but that's kind of the general framework.
The ACLU actually, we've seen this happen in the Trump's first administration, like egregiously. Jeff Sessions was the Attorney General at the time, and what he did was there was a woman who was trying to get essentially trying to seek asylum because of abuse that happened to her back in Guatemala, and I believe it was that she won her case, but Jeff Sessions came in. And actually, because the Attorney General can override immigration judges' decision, like that's their job, like that's the authority that they have. Jeff Sessions said that we're not going to approve this asylum case based on abuse, and told the judges to stop essentially, approving cases based on abuse. So this is like a perfect example of how the attorney generals can come and put their thumb on the scale, even if somebody has. And you understand, we talked about this. You've worked with cases with asylum. Those are very hard to prove.
Yeah, people think that it's you walk in and you have a sob story and they'll say, okay, welcome to the US, and you're here to stay. No, it's actually incredibly difficult. And if anything, the odds are stacked against you. You go through several rounds of interviews. You get through several interrogations, what it feels like, because they'll question you and they try to flip questions to intentionally screw you up and make sure that you're quote unquote not lying, but really it's intentionally to trick you to be like, oh wait, no, sorry, no, it wasn't that. I'm like, oh well, now you're backtracking on this date, and now this didn't happen on that date, huh? And da-da-da. It becomes ridiculous, and that's just the interview process. Then you have to work with lawyers and prove that the country it's called country conditions of the said country, and prove that you actually can't be there because it's not safe for you in the entire country. Whether it's because you dated someone who happens to be in the cartel, whether it's because you have political beliefs and you're part of an opposing political party, whether it's because you are from the LGBTQI community and are not accepted in the entire country, right? There's so many different factors that come into play. And then you also have to, in a lot of cases, go through very traumatic stories because you then have to provide your personal story, right? So there's a separate document that you go work with a lawyer and outline your entire narrative of what led you to this point, and explaining why you need to be away from your country and hoping that the US gives you asylum. And you do all of that. and pray to Jesus that like whoever the asylum officer that's reviewing your case has a heart and believes you. Because that's the other thing. It's also so subjective.
Mhm.
It's different people who are reviewing your cases. And a lot of times, as we'll see, actually, ironically, similar for immigration cases, the
Mhm.
appeals court, right? Like appeals court
Yeah.
here, the Board of Immigration Appeals,
Mhm.
apparently doesn't do in court proceedings. They review appeals based on paper review of cases. And a lot of asylum, their processes are also paper specific. Yes, the person goes through a couple of interviews, but a lot of times you're just a name on a paper.
Oh, and they're starting to use AI for this.
Right.
So this is another thing that like, oh my gosh. Sorry, I just keep thinking of anyone who keeps saying, "Do it the right way, do
Mm-hmm.
it the right way." And it's just I just wanna shake them, like, shake them not, like, hard where it's like, "I'm gonna hurt you," and, like, just shake it, like, get it through your head.
Right.
Man, the system is made to make people fail.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get that? Telling someone I always say, telling someone, like, "Why don't you become a citizen?" Is me going to you and go, like, "Why don't you become a millionaire?"
Right.
Come on,
Since it's
bro.
so easy.
There are videos out there, there are YouTube. There's a bunch of millionaires out there. Why ain't you a millionaire?
Mm-hmm.
Stop with your excuses.
Since so easy.
You're 37.
Yeah.
Get your life in order. And people can just be like, well, you don't know my parents, they grew up like that. Oh, okay. So now you're giving me systemic excuses as to why you couldn't get there. Oh, I can't get a job because when I was a kid, I made a mistake. So
Oh,
you
look at
made a mistake
that.
when you were a kid. That's been haunting you forever.
So you should be shot in the foot forever, huh?
Oh my gosh. Oh, I come from a rough neighborhood. Oh, what about a rough country?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing and that's why I wanted to dive deep when it came to this, because again, there are so many different factors that come into play as to why people are unable to get status, or maybe fall out of status, right? Because I'll touch on that and a hypothetical for that in a second. But there's so many factors in play, whether it's financial, whether it's family things, whether it's you're transitioning and you are transitioning from man to woman and are going through hormonal medical treatment. And in the middle of all of that, you have to go through the trauma of your lived experiences in a country that is persecuting you.
Mhm,
And on top of that, you have people yelling at your face every day that everything you're saying is BS,
mhm,
that you're just trying to take advantage of the
mhm.
system. How dare you? Like, how dare you? I have worked with people
Yeah,
that have gone through the system, and I know for a fact that, like, sure, maybe not every single person. I'm a lawyer. I'm objective. I get it.
yeah.
Maybe there's a couple. Sorry, maybe there's a couple of like
Oh,
handful of
you
people,
curse. Oh, La Cojo's curse of the
because it just
season.
makes me so angry. Like,
Wow, she's so passionate about the people she protects. I wish she
well,
defends.
yeah, because it just makes me so angry. Like, sure, maybe there's a handful of people or whoever the fuck else, but it's not everyone. There are real people that we're talking about. People that are voting against these issues, people that are advocating for send them back, blah blah blah. You are killing people by doing this. You are
You are.
murdering
You
people, and
are.
there is no other way about it. Like it's just really hurtful because I'm thinking back to the client that I'm thinking about, who fortunately their asylum case was approved after like 5 years,
Yeah.
and they fortunately got status and are good and all that, but like it's I just know who's behind all of these papers
Mhm.
and who's behind these applications, and these are real people that we're talking about, so it's just really frustrating.
No, it's and
um
and something that I've heard before that, like, it broke my heart. I was listening to somebody talk about, they were a lawyer talking about one of the asylum cases. And oh gosh, I hope it wasn't you. Then I'm just reiterating one of your stories, but because you talk a lot of different
Mhm.
clients and stuff like that, and a lot of people. But this one person was saying that they were trying to take their client through the process of how to retell their story, and every time their client told their story, they would be very nonchalant. They'd be like, "Yeah, this happened to me, and this happened to me," and then the lawyer was like, "Ugh, I'm gonna need a little more emotion," and
Oh,
then
that was not me.
right. So when they get to the hearing,
Mhm.
the person starts telling the story and they start crying,
Mm.
and they generally start and then it's not like, damn, that's what I needed, but then that's when the lawyer realized this is a very traumatic thing, and
Yeah.
these court system make you have to repeat these
Yes.
traumatic stories
And question
almost
you on your story.
almost in a sadistic way, like they
Yeah.
want to rehear this pain, like, ooh, tell me how much you hurt.
Okay, you always go that route. It's not
No, no, no,
necessarily
yo, but
hold
okay,
on.
I understand that they have to relive it, that they
No, no,
have to
no, no,
do
no.
it, but
Hold on. I'm
to
not
have to, like,
hold
almost cry.
hold on.
Mhm,
I'm not saying that they're not necessarily jerks about it. I'm not saying that they're the way they question, and I literally called it interrogate
mhm,
earlier.
mhm.
Yes, they interrogate people
Mhm,
intentionally to try and trip you up on your own story
mhm,
and make it seem like you're lying.
mhm.
Yes, 100%. Um, but I I don't necessarily think it's always for the reason
Not
that you're
always, but
framing
we
it.
did hear a story about a doctor, right? And I'm trying to like, I hope I'm not making too big of a leap here, of a doctor who was trying to use his medical procedures as a way to abuse his patients.
That
You,
okay.
right? Saying like, oh, I have to check this area, even though
Mhm.
he didn't have to. I do not doubt that there's some immigration judges out there who are like, I want to hear your story and I want to hear it. I want to hear the pain, like almost like a sadistic thing. I'm being
I mean,
serious.
no, I believe you, and it's possible for sure. I believe there are terrible
And
people out
and and
there.
that's what's so heartbreaking is that some of these people are like, you weren't sad enough. I can't believe that you weren't sad enough.
Yeah,
You didn't make me believe it. I need to watch 12 Years a Slave. I need to feel like, you know what I mean? It's almost like, and that's why she was saying like this person had to some of my clients have to break down in front of these judges for the judges to genuinely believe that they're going through this.
yeah,
And it's because they have to relive this trauma all the time. And some of the clients were saying, save all this trauma dumping for the moment they're in front of that judge when it matters the most.
yeah.
That's so sad.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and that's the other part because again, we're talking, which is why I keep saying there's so many different factors and elements.
Yeah.
And yes, I don't want to keep going down other rabbit holes because you're talking about the emotional factors that come
Mm-hmm.
into this and how traumatizing and how re-traumatizing and how like exhausting it all is and
Mm-hmm.
how much it not only is financially costing and physically costing, but also emotionally costing, right? So
Right.
where there's a lot of different things, but I'm trying to get us back on track.
I'm
So
sorry. I'm the
before
emotion.
we
I'm the heart. You're the brain. That's how
okay.
we get to it.
Before we pivot to
Yes.
the different issues in the structure, I just wanted to flag one last thing
Mm-hmm.
on the BIA, again, the Board of Immigration Appeals. This is the division that reviews appeals from the immigration court system. So something to note is BIA decisions are binding on all DHS officers and immigration judges unless modified or overruled by the Attorney General
General.
or a federal court. Most BIA decisions are subject to judicial review in the federal courts. So again, flagging that technically there's supposed to be a check on this, right? Technically, that's actually built in to safeguard whatever kind of immigration decisions are made
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that things are being done above board. Unfortunately, given the current administration, given our current AG, and given the persecution that's happening against federal judges who are actually trying to uphold the law
Mm-hmm.
and conduct this type of judicial review
Mm-hmm.
that are being persecuted, this is actually not how things are playing out, right? So again, flagging for the audience that this is another obstacle loophole, just in and of itself structurally,
Mm-hmm.
that's a problem,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And this also used to fall like under, because I was reading a little bit of the history of it.
Mhm,
This all used to fall under the jurisdiction of the Labor Department.
mhm.
This is how much like immigration was only considered one time as a useful tool to bring in, people to exploit.
Well, I
Essentially,
mean, not
it's one
one
of the,
time. People still feel that
it
way.
still is that way, but it's just crazy that
Yeah.
was so closely tied to the,
The immigration system?
yeah.
Yeah.